So I've been playing a good bit of the Final Fantasy VII Remake since it came out, and during my playthrough, I had a crazy idea. A little bit on the masochistic side. Could you beat the game, or at the very least, Chapter 1, without ever using the ATB? The game relies heavily on staggering and using abilities to stagger, but if you cripple yourself, is it still possible? I wanted to find out, and these are my results. So we start a new game, and to start off with, we're going to start with normal, but if it's too hard, we will bump it down to easy. The first couple fights are pretty easy, not too much to note there. It's mostly just use the square button to attack and keep doing that until they die, so there's not really much strategy that goes into the first couple fights. So as you can see, not a whole lot going on, but while you're watching this, because I do want you to get the full experience of the battles that I went through, I did want to give a little bit of insight into the rules. So the basic rules, you can attack with anything other than the square command and the triangle command, so there's no use of the ATB. The good thing is, using items outside of battle does not consume ATB, so I am able to heal, but it just has to be outside of battle. I cannot use items inside of battle. I can't use any of the commands. I can't use any materia magic, none of that. So makes it a little bit more difficult, especially for staggering enemies later on. And you'll see that primarily with the first kind of mini boss that's coming up shortly. So finally, Barrett joins the party, and now we're getting into the points where I actually have to use a bit of strategy as the enemies come out. So for this first fight, obviously I have to use Barrett. I don't have to, but it makes it a lot quicker to take out the turrets, and then I use the cloud to clean up the rest. You'll see Barrett is very, very important for the final boss fight. If you were having to do this with just Cloud, it would be near impossible. Even with both of them, it's still very hard. You also get to see me be very terrible at dodging lasers, because apparently lasers are hard. And here we go with the first mini boss fight. So this fight isn't terrible. I do struggle with it a bit at first, just trying to figure out how not to get Cloud dead. But I come to two strategies. The first strategy is trying to use Barrett as a tank to essentially soak up the damage, which is something you'll see a little bit later on as well. Once I figure out that that's not a great strategy, because this thing just moves around and changes targets far too frequently, I then decide to just switch to Cloud and stay at his side. He's pretty easy to dodge. He only has two main attacks, his charge here and his guns. And as long as you stay out from in front of him, you're not going to be really hit by either. And then it becomes an easy fight of just keep mashing square until the thing falls. Finally, after beating the sweeper, you get to watch Cloud get burned, I guess. It's a Barrett burn, it's just Barrett being Barrett. And we move on to the final chamber that has one fight and our boss fight, the kind of premiere fight of this run. So after facing those guys, we head down into the Mako reactor proper to fight the boss. I do heal beforehand, it is necessary, and you're about to see why. This fight is very hard. I do choose 30 minutes every time on the timer for the bomb. I don't really need it, but I just wanted to be sure in case this slowed me down a lot. But enjoy a montage of every time that I fought this boss. So with that, we fight the final boss fight with the strategy that does, spoiler alert, end up allowing me to beat this boss. This is a very tough fight to do without any ATB, but I'll kind of break down the basic strategy. So right now, we're using Barret to draw the fire of the Scorpion Sentinel. You may have seen this in the montage, but you basically want Barret to get targeted in the very early stage of the fight. That means all the missiles, basically everything is going towards Barret. Barret has a higher health pool, and he's ranged, which means he's less likely to get hit without guarding. And you'll see I'll switch in between certain mechanics, hoping that he'll target Barret again. We keep pushing this for a little bit until we get to stage 2.
Take the lead.
Alright, now that we're in stage 2, once again I switch to Barret. The strategy is mostly the same with a couple of small tweaks. We still want Barret to be targeted, and then we switch to Cloud and immediately go after the field generator. We will swap a little bit here and there between the two to try and destroy the field generator as quickly as we can. depending on if the Scorpion jumps in the air like this, or if he jumps and turns towards Cloud.
Or go down in flames.
Once the shield is down, we just kind of pummel into him. I immediately go into Punisher mode, do some dodging, and then just try to do as much damage, get as much pressure in as possible. We do end up being able to get him down without going into a second shield phase, which is definitely the best outcome you can hope for, but is not very likely. In most of the runs that I did, I ended up in the second shield phase in most of them.
It's on you.
Damn pain in the ass.
Here we go.
And now we move into phase 3. So this is where things kick up a notch and where I failed most of my runs. The main difference in this phase is his tail laser and that he's just generally more aggressive. So the tail laser, obviously you have to hide behind the debris. The strategy is mostly the same though. You want him to target Barret with most of his attacks. So you're going to aim for that pretty much every time. Once the tail laser hits, you're going to immediately overcharge with Barret and then rush in with Cloud to get in as much of the pressure gauge as you can. Once that's over, you want to switch back to Barret. Now it doesn't work this first time, but the subsequent phases of this encounter, I do succeed in making him target Barret. The basic idea is I want Cloud to be alive for the final part, because what was killing my runs is that Cloud would die before the 4th phase, and you just do not have the damage output with just Barret to kill him once you stagger him in the final phase. So this goes on for a little bit. Most of this is the same, so he just kind of does his turret, he does his missile silos, he does all of that, and then occasionally does his tail laser. If you follow the pattern that he gives you, it's generally not too hard, it's just really difficult to not take a lot of damage. Once we get through this, we're into the final phase.
Take cover already. Let's do this. Now, go.
Hurry up. Sure could use a break. Hey, it's doing that thing again.
Find cover and hunker down.
Again and again and again. Bring it home.
All the time.
Now, get in there and do some damage. You're up.
Need to heal up. All right. Damn it. Need to heal up soon. Get ready, you're mine.
With Cloud almost dead, we finally stagger the boss. This gets us pretty much into the 4th and final phase of the boss, which is where it becomes a little difficult, but I found a strategy that seems to work. His overkill attack does a lot of damage, but once again, strategy is switch to Barret. So as soon as this cutscene is over, I switch directly to Barret, and then I'm just going to focus the legs. Now, I get lucky here. AI Cloud actually ends up circling around to the back of the boss, so he takes no damage. Leaving Barret standing still and guarding, I actually was able to avoid most damage without any real consequences to Barret. So, strategy, get the leg, Once the leg is down, he goes into his stagger phase where you can actually do some pressure damage. So then we switch immediately to Cloud, go into Punisher mode, and do as much damage as physically possible to his pressure gauge. We want to get that down with the second leg, because you only have 2 legs to do this on, and then it becomes a lot more difficult. So we repeat that phase for a little bit, and then we get him down. And with this last little bit, we end the boss, and you get to hear my live reaction while recording on how happy I was to finally beat this boss.
You ain't gotta worry about me missing my...
Yes! Fuck yes! Oh my god! I freaking did it! Holy Jesus! Oh my god.
Shit, the ball!
30 minutes until detonation.
Huh, you hear that? Damn thing showed you how it's done.
Come on, we've got to move.
And with that, guys, it is pretty much over. The rest is going to be just kind of clean up, getting through, and fighting a couple enemies. There's no real strategy behind most of what I did. Although the first fight was a bit scary because I forgot to heal, and 1 or 2 fires could have potentially knocked me out. But other than that, pretty straightforward. Guys, anyone who made it this far in the video, who got to the end of my challenge, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing and liking and all that jazz. I do stream over on twitch.tv. I'll have that pop up right here. I did stream the entire gameplay of my first playthrough over there. I did not stream this. This was pure recording, but I did stream my entire playthrough of this game. And you can watch the VODs if you'd like, but I do all kinds of playthroughs of different games, RPGs, shooters, anything really very casual. So if you like that kind of stuff, come by, watch me live. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of this as we get toward the end. And thank you so much for watching, guys. Y'all have a great day.